Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. We are the Software Business Accelerator team. My name is Jared Rader, and I'm going to talk to you about our first project, which involves the potential adoption of Google Apps for Education into OU Information Technology's portfolio. So, we partnered with OU Information Technology this semester to consider whether we should adopt a cloud-based solution and replace our current email solution, which is Microsoft Exchange. Microsoft Exchange is a local on-site email and calendar solution, which means that the user's data is stored locally in servers on OU's campus. OU licenses Microsoft services on an annual basis, and this contract is set to expire this spring. Also, OU typically updates its hardware every 4 years, and it's set for another hardware update in summer of 2013. So these factors led OUIT to consider whether the time is right to adopt a cloud-based email solution. And what that means is that user data that is stored locally on campus would be outsourced to third-party servers off-site. The solution that we're looking at this semester, primarily, is Google Apps for Education. So Google Apps for Education is a suite of 6 applications that offers far more than just the email and calendar solutions that we currently have. These applications are collaborative online tools that greatly enhance user productivity. All data is stored in Google servers off-site, which means that one could access their data anywhere, anytime, on any device that has a browser that is connected to the internet. Also, an added benefit is that your data is more secure than if one were to store it on personal flash drives or personal computers, which are much easier to lose than data that is hosted on multiple servers. Also, the best part about it is that it's free. Google is offering this service to universities at no cost. So let me tell you a little bit more about these specific applications. Google Apps is made up of 6 applications. First, Gmail, which is Google's email solution that also offers instant messaging chat capabilities. There's also Google Calendar, which allows users to create and share events, as well as share their own schedules. There's also Google Docs, which allows several users to simultaneously create and edit text files, presentations, spreadsheets, and several other collaborative tools. There's also Google Sites, which allows users to simultaneously create and edit their own websites. We also have Google Groups, which allows users to efficiently create mass emailing lists. And then there's also the App Marketplace, where a user would go to download further educational apps. Together, these all make up Google Apps for Education. However, this isn't the only solution out there. Microsoft also has a cloud-based solution. To talk about our further options, our future options, I'll now hand it over to Richard.
Thanks, Jared. As Jared was mentioning, our current solution on campus is Microsoft Exchange. Cloud solutions outperform Exchange, and here's why. First, Google Apps and Microsoft 365 are both cloud-based. Google Apps is extremely innovative, and the idea is that they're always ahead of the curve with technology and trying new features within their products. Google Apps and Microsoft 365 are both allowing real-time collaboration. 365 is easier to implement. They both have 25 gigabytes of storage per user. Google Apps is free, while 365 is $10 per user per faculty. However, when Microsoft learned that we were analyzing Google Apps, they came and offered it to us for free for both students and faculty. So now that we all understand how cloud solutions outperform our current solution on campus, next we'll look at the 3 phases that are needed for a successful adoption of Google Apps on campus. First is the research, then followed to the testing, and ultimately the implementation. For research, we looked into 3 areas: security, privacy, and legal compliances. For security, one of the issues with hardware breaches. Google actually has customized and extremely safe and secure servers. Data breach, for outsourcing your data, the worry is that other people can get access to that data without it being on site. So Google Apps, Google offers offers a high security facility with retinal and thermal scanners. Responsiveness. How fast can they respond whenever there's a possible threat? Google actually has on-site 24-hour staff for threats. And lastly, password phishing. So people who actually come in and steal your password and log into your Google account, Google has actually taken the step to have a two-step verification process to where you can actually log in traditionally with your username and your password, and also have a verification code from your mobile device. Then for privacy, the issue with privacy is data mining. Google actually does not data mine for educational apps. And also, the reason for data mining is for advertisements. Google does not advertise for education apps either. For legal compliances, for ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, which requires that all people on campus have the equal opportunity for all these services, they are actually moved from F's and D's from the standards of the National Federation of the Blind. They switched from F's and D's all the way to A's and B's, which is a significant improvement. For FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which requires that all student accounts have the right to be privatized, Google states that they are FERPA compliant in their terms. For e-discovery, for e-discovery requires that everybody with inboxes, that the administrators may go in and take a quick snapshot and understand the issue under any type of litigations. Now, we have API add-ons for this case and Postini, which is actually the extension of this add-on that Google offers. And lastly, HIPAA. HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which requires that all information for health insurance information that's being transmitted must be secure and encrypted. We must verify with legal counsel with this issue. From these research, once these all check through, we can then move on to the testing phase. The testing phase is where we understand more of the campus sentiment, usage, and the familiarity and the perspective. We have conducted surveys for campus-wide surveys to get a broad snapshot of the usage and the perspective of the students and faculty. We also have conducted focus groups to understand the usage and the adaptability of these users across campus in a test environment. Next, we are going to launch a pilot program, which will actually allow us to have data and usage on how these users on campus will use them over a period of time in a more realistic setting. And lastly, dogfooding. We have been dogfooding this idea. This idea is taken from Google, which is from a recommendation from our mentor, Josh Woodward, in where we test the products extensively throughout the semester so we can understand the products in and out. And once we continue to get positive feedback with this testing phase, we can then move on to the implementation phase. The implementation phase is consisted of 3 areas: the contract, the marketing, and the rollout plan. For the contract, we suggest to OUIT that they immediately begin the contract terms once they understand that they will move forward with this idea. With marketing, we suggest to OUIT to conduct training sessions for faculty and students on campus, create a resource page on IT answers so anyone can go in and understand how to use these products, and also communicate to the campus through social media such as Facebook and Twitter to better understand their problems. And now the rollout phase. The rollout phase, we would suggest to OUIT to analyze the pilot program data to better understand what the best step forward is. Also, next they would have to assess and develop the API tools necessary for this process. Then they will have to migrate the old data from the Microsoft Exchange servers into the new Google Cloud. And then finally, they should assess the third-party add-ons that may be necessary to further supplement this. Now that we understand the 3 phases necessary for an implementation process for Google Apps, Caroline will talk more about the usage of Google Apps on campus.
Thank you, Richard. We are using OUIT's research to look into the current trends of forwarding email for students and faculty to different email systems. For students, out of the 571 current systems that students are forwarding email to, Gmail is overwhelmingly popular with 41%. While Gmail is less preferred for faculty forwarding, it still is the preferred solution. We also have been conducting research and surveys on campus for both students and faculty. In our student surveys, over 350 students responded from all different majors on campus. They show that, students are already using Google Apps on a day-to-day basis. A similar trend arose with faculty. We see that they are also taking advantage of Google Apps already. When we asked students and faculty if we decided to implement Google Apps on campus, would they use them? Students responded that they would use Google Apps very often. While Google Apps is less popular for faculty, they still show that many of the faculty members would use Google Apps often. Looking at our research and our data, we have seen that if OUIT decides to implement Google Apps on our campus, we should see strong adoption from the OU community. We also will see an increased sense of collaboration tools for the students and faculty. But what are the financial implications of making this switch? To shed light on this subject, here's Tyler.
Thank you, Caroline. The only tool that we found in Google Apps was Gmail to have a significant impact on OUIT's infrastructure. There are two options to implement Gmail on campus. The first one is to implement Gmail only for students, and the second one is to implement for the entire campus. However, there are different cost savings when you weigh both options. Currently, this is what Exchange looks like. Email comes to the internet and first encounters the Edge. The Edge has anti-spam and anti-virus capabilities. Emails that are rejected are then bounced back into the internet. As emails pass through the Edge, they go onto the Hub. The Hub will then sort the emails into the respective mailboxes. The CAS, or the client access server, is where users will log into Exchange and access their emails. Now, if we were to implement Gmail for only students, we would see that student emails would be rerouted at the Hub to Google accounts. Students, instead of logging at the CAS, will then log into Google through their student domain, still using ou.edu, and the sync will act as a bridge that will allow for this to happen. Now, the last option is to implement Google at Gmail for both faculty and students. We would see that Exchange infrastructure will be completely removed from OU. This will result in significant cost savings. Now, faculty and students will both log into Google. To dig deeper into the financials, we identified the areas where there will be savings and costs. For the first option, which is to implement Gmail only for students, we will be able to reduce the number of licenses and thus reduce the amount of servers on campus. As for costs, we have to provide a server that will support the sync. Also, an OUIT employee would have to create a Gmail widget, which would allow students to log into Gmail from Ozone. Now, when implementing an email solution that's completely new onto OU campus, we have to increase user awareness through marketing, and also provide training to the users so they know how to utilize Gmail effectively. OUIT would also need to be provided with training so that they can thus, in turn, support the students. For our second option, there's significant cost savings in that we will delete the Exchange infrastructure. This will result in savings from reducing support and also system admins. The only additional cost that we might incur on this option is that we might have to add a journaling tool. This tool will be used by OUIT to track certain account activities whenever there's a legal issue. So we're currently working on the financial numbers, but we project that we'll have the similar savings as other universities. who have successfully already implemented Gmail for both students and faculty. From OUIT, we have gotten a projection that we might save up to $250,000. So there are significant cost savings. So what are our next steps? We will first provide a scorecard. This will be encompassing all of our analysis, and we'll update it as we progress forward. And as we talked about before, we are currently conducting focus groups, and we're about to launch a pilot program in the upcoming weeks. And lastly, we will synthesize our research and provide the best implementation strategy on how to adopt Google Apps into the OUIT portfolio. So to summarize our deliverables, we will provide a scorecard analysis that will detail all the pros and cons of Google Apps, the implementation strategy of Google Apps, and finally, we recommend to OU that regardless of whether or not they choose 365 or Google Apps, that they implement Google Apps minus Gmail because it's free, and also it'll increase collaboration on campus. So I'd like to thank everyone for being here today, and I'd like to open the floor for questions.
Two things. Could you explain more about the, you said there was like a two-step security thing for Google Apps with the mobile verification as well as the login? And the second thing, on that slide you went through all of these things that Google Apps did, but it seemed like Microsoft Exchange just kind of dropped out of the picture. I was wondering what happened to it.
Okay. For your first question, I'll take this question actually. For your first question, you can actually set up to where you have a verification code that will send, that's an app on your phone, and it'll change every minute. Thus, whoever wants to hack into your account has to have your phone also. There is a master code though that you can set up in case you don't have your phone with you.
So every time you log in, you have to also type in on your phone?
Yes, after you type in your traditional username and password, it'll ask for the second verification code, which you have to check your phone.
To clear up any questions, it's also optional that you do that.
Yes, that's true. And for your second question, as for the slides, that is when you implement Gmail for faculty and students. So thus the entire Exchange infrastructure is no longer needed.
I'm sorry, not that slide.
Not that
the same
slide?
one that talked about the mobile verification. You went through all these qualities that Google Apps did, and you said before that Microsoft Exchange was also, or 365 rather, was also free. And I was wondering why there wasn't the same comparison for 365.
When OUIT approached us with their idea, they asked us to specifically look into the implementation of Google Apps on our campus. In our recommendation, we are going to suggest that they do a thorough analysis of Microsoft 365 as well. But that was not within the scope of our project.
You talked about collaboration, using Google Docs and all the other apps that Google provides, but I feel like there should be better explaining how that collaboration works as far as projects and testing, the way students sometimes can work together through all the apps. Because I know Google has a lot of stuff that they can do through all the apps, but you mainly just talked about email. And what comes along with email is a lot, but I feel like you guys know it didn't really come out what all Google Docs can do. And the team members collaborating over one document, editing it from anywhere for one document, presentation sites, creating a classroom site easily and free for that classroom. Google has a lot more than just Gmail.
No, absolutely. Something we didn't really touch upon was exactly what the apps did. But the main reason why we focused on the Gmail is because that's where all the cost savings are. So that's why I did the financial analysis. Yes.
What are the cost savings?
Currently, Google Apps will be free for both students and faculty. For Exchange, though, we are currently paying $5 per user.
Okay, so it seems to me like there's going to be some implementation costs, right? So, to implement Google Apps in terms of the labor, the training, all the costs that you outlined.
Yes.
At what point will the university break even in terms of its investment to adopt Google Apps?
That is something we have to look into. Yes.
I depend on Exchange for like my everyday life, and so it worries me a little bit when you're like, let's just do away with it. And so like, what would happen? Because I have years of emails on there. Would they just transition to the Google Cloud? Is that how that would work? And then I would follow up to that too, I guess.
OU will actually be able to move all your emails, your current ones, over to your Gmail account.
Would they stay also on like Microsoft servers? Like, would there be 2 copies of them? I guess they would just move to Google then.
They'd be completely moved.
Okay.
Your OU Exchange account, unless you have one separate from the university, your university OU Exchange account would be
Gone. But if
But all of your
content will
emails-
move first.
They would just move over.
Yes.
Okay. And my second question is, again, I really love Exchange.
Okay.
And it just worries me that like it seems like to me that a lot of this impetus to move to Google Apps and Gmail is based on like a very small sample of students. And I know like you really can't go out and, you know, get 10,000 people to take the survey. Like there's no way that's gonna happen, but like, you know, that's less people than vote in student elections. And that's a really small number. And that really worries me that like we're gonna do it with the Exchange on review opinions.
No, that's not true. We're just starting just implementation by OUIT expressed that we want to aim to make sure that students are happy with it, and that will actually increase the learning. And with this though, that's why our recommendation currently though is that even if we go with 365, we're still going to get all the other apps excluding Gmail, so that we can increase collaboration. Yes.
So do you have like demographics on who took your survey? Is that like representative of like a broad spectrum of students?
Yes, actually, there's only 2 majors at the entire college that did not respond, but we actually do have the percentages in our data.
Okay, so Google Apps Google is providing these applications for free, and they're also not going to receive ad revenue from the implementation of these applications. So is there any risk that Google is going to charge for this down the line? Are they just getting us to adopt so they can charge us later? Like, what's their incentive to provide all of this for free and not make any money off of it?
There is no 100% guarantee that Google will not charge us. That's something that they can't guarantee us. But their main goal, though, of giving educational suite apps for free to schools, though, is that hopefully whenever students are more used to using Google Apps, that when they move out to the workforce, that they will suggest to their workplace to implement Google Apps. And that's kind of like an investment for the future.
One more thing on that. We actually will sign a contract with Google for the life cycle of our infant. Like, it's usually a 3-year life cycle. So we will sign a contract so we could guarantee that they wouldn't be able to charge in that set period of time.
Have you looked at the infrastructure required for the increased use of internet that's going to be required to do this? You know, your network is here on the campus right now. And people who access their internet, they send messages to each other all the time. They're on the local area network. When you have everybody on the internet, on a cloud-based internet, suddenly your IP network has to increase in size several orders of magnitude. Somebody who's going to send somebody an email who sits next to them in the classroom is going to go all the way out to the cloud and back. There's going to be an increased investment in IP platform as well. Have you looked at that?
Yes, we have, actually. We don't really, like for our part, it's not within our scope to go into the technical details. For OUIT, they have, and they did mention to us that although there is a significant increase in data coming in and out of our servers and our network and our bandwidth, that it's not a significant investment, or that it was negative towards that. That everything that we have is capable.
Things are stored on the cloud. Who owns the data? Is it Google or is it the university or is it the individuals?
No, it's explicitly stated by Google that Google does not own any of our data, and that they will not ever look at our data unless there is a legal issue for the court that they have to do it. It's owned by the university or the individual, depending on who created it.
Transition to feedback, so kind of education.
I think one thing that might help is if it's more